Hello, this is Dr. Mike again, and today we're talking about negative communications. Yesterday we talked about positive communications, and by and large, most communications you would make in the workplace would be positive. Most plants will do that on a regular basis. When I worked for BMW, I worked in corporate communications. It was my duty every day to do the TV broadcast and to put out the daily news, which was mostly positive. If we had anything of a negative nature, we generally did that in a different format and did that in a plant meeting and in a place where people could ask questions and get the help that they need. So negative communications will happen from time to time, and there are so few things that you need to consider when you're doing negative communications, and that's what we would like to talk about with you today. We're talking about the essentials, and you never know when you may work in a place, have a position that's small enough to where you will need to be the communicator, and that's what we did in corporate communications. We handled everything from President Bush's visit when he came to our plant, with all the things that were involved with that, to just normal daily stuff. So we want to understand the goals of a business communicator in conveying negative news, which may be a little bit different than positive. First of all, you want to be very clear and very complete. You want to project a professional image. Try not to convey with your body language or your facial expressions something other than what you would like to be sure that you convey. You want to be very sensitive. You want to show empathy. You want to be fair. You want to be impartial. And you want to maintain friendly relations. All of us get to see from time to time the communicator for the president. And in the last administration, went through several of those. We've had one in the new administration, but pay attention to how they conduct those meetings. They are basically conveying all these things that we're talking about, positive or negatively, how they handle the press, because the press ultimately will be the ones that will write and divulge and break this message down. So you want all these things to be very, very clear. In this generation with the COVID virus, you have governors and presidents who continually try to convey a message. And most of that is very discouraging. And so they have to do it in ways that will, reach the people without causing an uproar. Compare the strategies, then we want to compare the strategies and the ethics of the direct and indirect way of communicating negative news. First of all, think about the direct and indirect strategies that we will use in this process. As far as a direct strategy, when the bad news is not damaging, when the receiver may overlook the bad news, when the organization or receiver prefers directness, or when firmness is necessary, we tend to use direct strategy. You don't leave things of certain natures for people to speculate about and for them to guess about. Use indirect strategy when the bad news is personally upsetting, or when the bad news may provoke a hostile reaction, or when the bad news threatens the customer relationship, or when it is unexpected. You might want to use a indirect strategy. So here's how those two strategies kind of look if you compare them. Direct strategy with bad news, with reasons, and then pleasant close. Indirect, you have a buffer and reasons, bad news, and a direct close. And we're going to look at those in a little more detail. There are four parts to indirect strategy for bad news. The buffer: open with a neutral but meaningful statement that does not mention the bad news. Our plant, our company has had a banner year this year. Our sales are high. But then you want to explain the causes of the bad news before you show what it is. However, because of COVID, lots of things have had to be put on hold, altered, or changed. And then you reveal the bad news. Because of COVID and because of our lack of production and our lack of earnings, we will not be able to give you a raise this year. And then you want to end with a personalized, forward-looking, pleasant statement. Avoid referring to the bad news. In the new year, we're looking for things to change. We're hoping to get back on production strategy and moving forward. Our third learning objective is to explain the components of effective negative messages, including open with a buffer, apologizing, showing empathy, presenting the reasons, cushioning bad news, closing it pleasantly. Those are all things that are important. So what is a buffer? We talk about starting with a buffer. It can be a device that reduces shock or pain. It could be neutral. It could be meaningful, a meaningful statement that makes the reader continue reading. It can be a concise, relevant opening that provides a natural transition to what's about to follow. All those things would be considered buffers. There are various kinds of those. You can pay a compliment. You know, we really appreciate the hard work. We appreciate you filling in where we've had openings because of COVID. All these things, we do really appreciate that. You share the best news you have, or facts, or any kind of appreciation or understanding, or things you're in agreement, so that you have people feeling generally pretty positive. And then you present the reasons for negative news. Explain the reasons leading up to the denial. Cite the reader benefits or benefits to others if it's relevant. Explain the rationale behind your company's policy. Choose positive words to keep the reader in a receptive mood. Show fairness, show serious intent. All those are vitally important if you're breaking bad news to people. There are some other technologies that also work. You can position the bad news strategically, use a passive voice, highlight the positive if it's relevant, imply the refusal, and suggest a compromise or an alternative. All of those would be interesting. And then you want to close pleasantly, look forward, anticipate future relationships or business, alternative, give through advice or give thoughtful advice or offer an alternative if available, express good wishes to the person you're dealing with, maybe send a coupon for freebies or resell or sales promotion, invite the reader to consider your other products that you might have for sale. So, you know, if you're writing to say, hey, we don't have this product in stock that you've paid for, that you've sent money for, then you want to offer maybe a coupon or something to keep them looking at your stuff and not just marking you off. The fourth learning objective, apply effective techniques in refusing typical requests or claims, as well as handling consumer bad news in print or otherwise. Saying no to requests and claims can be pretty unpopular. You know, sometimes requests for money, for favors, for information, for service. Just say no when you can't do that. Claims from disappointed customers, or invitations, or serious problems with orders or rate increases, price hikes, credit refusals. All those things come under that heading of no, I'm sorry, we cannot give you a loan because your credit score is in the 500s. And we don't consider that to be a acceptable risk, or we're not allowed to give loan money for that. So basically, a writing plan for refusing typical requests. Start with a buffer. Start with a neutral statement like a compliment. We see that you've improved your credit rating quite a bit. Review the facts or make an apology. Include a key fact that acts as a transition. However, we have to look at, our rules of lending funds or giving you a loan or whatever, and blah, blah, blah. So those are the things that you think about. Think about the reasons. Then you get to the bad news. We're just not able to loan you the money you're looking for, and then close it as much like you do a letter. And that's very, very important. So what about dealing with customers, disappointed customers in print? If you're doing it by email, remember how cold that is. Call or email them if you can. Describe the problem, apologize, offer them an alternative would be helpful. Why the problem occurred. Why, one of the major things today when you're trying to get goods and order goods is that COVID has backlogged. We don't have enough people working to offload ships, and your product might be sitting on a ship off the coast of California. What are we going to do to resolve that? How do you prevent it from happening again? Trying to hire more people, good people. And then you promote goodwill by following up with a message that documents the phone call. This is what we talked about on the phone today. I just wanted to, document it and get it back to you. If you're going to do it in a hard copy, do written messages. Remember that you do that when you can't reach the person personally. A personal message is always better. When you need to establish a record of the incident, you want it in writing, you want it on paper. When you wish to confirm follow-up procedures or you want to promote good relations, those are all examples of when you would do that on paper. So why do consumers complain online? They air their complaints on social media sites because it's easy, rather than calling, customer service departments and staying online all day. You're also kind of hidden away. They can't see you. They don't know who you are. But it might be the quicker way to do it online so that you can, reach someone very quickly. And now most online sites have, they have people manning the chat booths. So that is very, very helpful. So basically, we're managing bad news within organizations, outside the organization, and it's really helpful to, even when you have negative news, to be able to learn to do that correctly. So if you read through this chapter, you'll get some other points today that will be mindful and helpful. And if I can help you in any way, please let me know. Okay, thanks.